Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Woodburn Accountants and Advisors China webinar series on e-commerce in China. We had the thought very early on to create a webinar series to allow companies to get a full picture about the e-commerce market and how to actually create their business models, their supply chains, and to learn and educate themselves on the ins and outs of doing e-commerce in China. When we look at today's age with the pandemic and COVID-19 and not being able to travel into China or out of China, the realization is that, or the biggest question that companies ask themselves is, how do I begin? So if you are in the consumer product sector, potentially e-commerce is the way to begin your market entry into China. Now, I've got two fantastic guest speakers on this week. I've got Alan and Kevin from the Elanders group, who are talking everything about routes to market, logistics, warehouse, everything from cross-border e-commerce to the actual domestic e-commerce market. And in tomorrow's session, I've got Manfred Steinkellner, who's going to be coming in as a recruitment specialist to talk about how to find the right people if you want to start doing things in-house, how you can find the right people who have this e-commerce expertise to work within your organization. So we're going to get cracking with today's presentation. Now, I have been picking names, and I will keep picking names because what we all love is the interaction that people are giving us. Am I back? Am I back? Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Alan, you can hear me? Fantastic. Apologies,
Yep,
ladies
me,
and
yeah.
gentlemen. It's an issue with my connectivity today, but I have actually just joined in through the phone line versus my computer audio. These things happen. We had 2-3 fantastic days, and today I'm the one who's having issues. So Alan and Kevin, just let me know if you don't hear me. Just message me through the WeChat. So I want to keep going with the start of all of this. If you guys could interact with us, that would be fantastic. It would be great to know who you are, a little bit about your backgrounds. All of this information gets also provided to Kevin and Alan. So if you could type into the chat box, are you a newbie to China? Which just basically means, are you looking for an opportunity in China, or have you found an opportunity in China? And are you looking to gain a certain level of information and education on the Chinese market? If you are a startup in China, we usually define that as companies or individuals that have been transacting with China for a certain number of years or have an entity in China for about 1 to 3 years. And then obviously the experienced China hands are usually those that have been in China
I don't know, for more than 10 years, and they're always looking for fresh or new information. If you can offer us a bit of background about who you are, we would be so grateful. This will allow us to have a little bit of feedback about who is in the audience. So please, again, do interact with us. Let us know who you are. How this webinar works. Okay, well, first of all, I don't own GoToWebinar, and there's always the technical issues that pop up. So right now I'm on a landline because my internet is having issues today. Hopefully I won't have any more issues along today's presentation. But if there are issues with Kevin or Alan, or there are issues with you, it does take a few moments for the reboot to occur. Please be patient. We will all be coming back on as the presenters to finish today's presentation, and we are recording today's session. So everybody will get a copy of the recording as well as a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation, all right? The whole point of these webinars are to educate you and to teach you. Obviously, in some indirect format, we are also trying to sell our services and what we can offer you as solutions. This is a free webinar. This is a free webinar series. If you don't interact with us, the Q&A is going to be relatively boring. Yesterday, we had a fantastic Q&A, a lot of interaction, a lot of back and forth discussion, and we hope we can generate that again today. So use this time wisely, use it to your value add, ask away, ask the questions, ask the comments. We're all going to be staying on the line in order to be able to reply to you. And on that point, I have actually Mika, who has a question from yesterday's session. He's already typed it into me, and I just want to go through that question before we hit off on today's topic. So Kevin and Alan, just listen in. The question is, one question relating to yesterday's cross-border e-commerce session. If the goods are shipped by rail to Hefei or Chongqing, can you hear me? Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so because it says here that I'm having audio difficulties. So the question is, if the goods are shipped by rail to Hefei or Chongqing, is it possible to utilize the bonded warehouse in the free trade zones in Shanghai and elsewhere, or the goods must be shipped directly to the free trade zones?
So from my understanding is that any goods that's coming from the overseas, whether it's coming from Europe to China rail, it can definitely go to a bonded facility, or it can go to a non-bonded facility, but that will require direct importations. It depends on which, what is the strategy that you wanted to promote in China, and what is most of your goods are going to be sell. Is it going to be sell through online, or is it going to be sell through generic trade? It all depends on the strategy from the brand owners. But just to let you guys know, both methods are all viable.
Mika, does that answer your question for yesterday? If it does, just write a little note, or if you've got a further question, then we will answer that during the Q&A, all right? Just a little bit of an intro to myself as well as to Kevin and Alan. So who am I? My name is Christina Kohler-Coluccia. I'm the head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. I have been in the corporate services and administration sector for the last 17 years, specifically for the Chinese market. My focus and my expertise and my knowledge level is purely on inbound investment into China. And I've helped over 500 companies with their pre-investment advisory, research, information, education, as well as their implementation, which ranges everything from direct transactions between head office in China, as well as the implementation simply incorporating an entity in China. The biggest thing I want people to realize and focus on is that if you don't have the right operational structure for your business in China, it becomes very, very difficult to focus on growth. So my whole spiel to companies is our goal is at some point to focus on growth, that we can avoid thinking about administrative and compliance issues that might pop up because we didn't spend enough time on that right from the beginning. Growth should be everyone's objective. And that's why I'm also the creator of the China Roadmap Method. And we have a webinar series on, or not a series, but we've got a webinar on this on October 13th, all about Woodburn's China Roadmap methodology, which is basically putting you on a roadmap, on a journey where you're going to acquire 9 superpowers and you're going to achieve 3 major milestones in order to lead your business to growth. All right, if you're interested in joining that, it's basically going through all the bullet points you have to think about from an administrative perspective. It's crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and making sure that everything is thought through when developing your China roadmap. And this is actually something for everybody, whether they're a newbie, whether they're a startup, or whether they're an experienced China head. Now, something that I highlight in the China roadmap is that one of the superpowers you need to develop is an ecosystem. An ecosystem or a network of individuals that can guide you, mentor you, coach you, help you, advise you, and provide the added value services that you might need to build up your business and to business. Okay? You cannot do it alone. It is extremely difficult to do it alone. This is why we've got Kevin and Alan on, because I don't do logistics. I don't do warehousing. I don't handle the physical customs applications. This is something that both Alan and Kevin do themselves. And this is why we work so well together, because we are providing companies with an end-to-end solution covering everything from the start to the finish of a supply chain. So I'm going to leave it to Alan and Kevin to introduce themselves and introduce their firms. We might be running into difficulties for the sound. Alan, are you there? It says here that you're self-muted.
Yes, I'm here. Yep.
Okay. Kevin, I'm having trouble unmuting you. Oh,
Can
perfect. Everyone's there. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
All right, I'm going to mute myself, and hopefully everything goes well. Alan, Kevin, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christina, and thanks to everybody for joining today. My name is Kevin Rogers. I'm the President of Sales and Marketing for Elanders Group. I've worked for Elanders since 1999, fulfilling several roles during my time, and I've got experience of working in the UK, Czech Republic, and more recently 4 years in China between the years of 2015 and 2019. Today I'm co-presenting with my colleague, Mr. Alan Chow. Alan has tremendous local knowledge of China, and I will hand over to Alan to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kevin and Christina. So my name is Alan, and I have been working for Mentor Media since 2016 as Business Development Manager. Basically, as you can see, my credentials, I used to study and work in London and specialize in the end-to-end supply chain solutions to international clients. For my previous work experience, I have been working with fashion industries and also in the pharmaceutical space as well. And I'm glad to join in this webinar today to give you guys a lot of insights with my colleague, Kevin along. And Kevin, pass back to you.
Thank you, Alan. I think we're just trying to manage the slide transition with Christina. It looks like my view is still on the Woodburn slides.
I've changed it. Kevin.
Ah, okay. Maybe it's just my my view. I'm still looking at the Woodburn slide, but let's go through next slide. First of all, let me explain a little bit about Elanders. So Elanders is a Swedish-owned global group. We have a presence in 20 countries. We have 90 locations worldwide, and we employ roughly about 6,000 employees. And from a logistics perspective, we cover the world. And the next slide just shows you a snapshot of the countries where we have a presence and also the number of facilities in each country. Now, from logistics, in China specifically, the map shows our locations. We have 11 facilities in China, strategically located around the seaboard for inbound goods from sea freight, but also central locations as well to support the major cities and the major major areas within China. So on the next slide, this is a graphic which explains the end-to-end logistics and supply chain solutions we have. So we take full responsibility for global supply chain management if our clients want us to do so. If not, they can mix and match the services that we offer, but from end to end, we can take the ownership of the goods from point of manufacture, point of origin. We then transport them all around the world by various modes of transport, the main ones being air, sea, land, and rail. We take ownership of the customs clearance, and then they generally end up in warehouses, predominantly Elanders warehouses, where we do a range of value-added services, and then we manage the outbound logistics, both for traditional retail or B2B channels through distributors to manufacturers, wholesale, and retail. And a large growing part of our business is the e-commerce world, where we support our customers' web stores, and we do all of the warehouse management of the inventory and the receiving of orders, and then the pick, pack, and ship of those orders direct to consumers. And the journey doesn't end there, because in many cases there is a need for returns logistics, which is where we could provide a service for catching returns as well. So it is an end-to-end solution for supply chain management that we offer our customers. So today's webinar.
Kevin,
yes?
Hold on, Kevin. I'm just going to stop you there. I just sent a message to all the attendees. Are you struggling to see the slides as well? Because I think Kevin is still, you're not seeing them, right?
I can't. No, I'm still.
Okay. If you are not seeing the screen, could you just click on the hand button in your control panel? Because obviously the whole point is to see the screen, because there are going to be flows and diagrams. In that case, Kevin, I'm going to make you the presenter if that's possible, because you've got a copy of your presentation. I'm going to do that now, and then we will be able to see your screen and the slides. That will be important. Did you get the message?
Did I get the message?
There we go. You should have gotten something. No?
I can't see it, Christina.
All right. Let me
I've got
put
a
it back
message
to me.
the organizer.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Can everyone see my screen now?
I can see it.
All right. So we're back. Okay. Apologies.
Okay.
I really apologize. This is one of these days. I'm really sorry. Okay.
Life would be boring if everything worked first time.
Yep, I can see
Right,
it
I
too.
can't
So
tell you,
Kevin,
my
back
heart-
to you.
My heart is pumping. I really apologize to everybody. All right, let's cross fingers. This keeps going. Okay.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So yes, as Christina very kindly introduced today's session, it's around China domestic e-commerce, and it presents tremendous opportunities for international brands. If you do decide to enter the Chinese e-comm market, it's important to do your research, of course, to understand the China market, because it is very different to how e-comm works in many other parts of the world. So the topics we will cover today, which we aim to make insightful and interesting and educational, are the key facts about the China e-comm market, opportunities for international brands, including some trends in the platforms, and very importantly, the key considerations international brands should make before entering China e-comm space, and how logistics works for domestic e-commerce. We covered cross-border e-commerce logistics yesterday. Today, it's all about the domestic space. And we've also created a simple step-by-step guide to guide you through setting up an e-comm store in China, which is on the presentation. So let's take a look at some key facts. And we said it yesterday. Next slide, Christina.
All right.
There we go. Perfect. Yes, we said it yesterday in the cross-border e-commerce that the numbers are staggering, but the domestic e-commerce are absolutely mind-blowing. So in 2019, total transactions hit 4.9 trillion US dollars. So when you compare that to other markets, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. And in 2020 so far, China e-comm accounts for 25% of the total retail. That's up to end of July. And similarly with cross-border e-commerce, the two giants are Tmall and JD, who represent 80% of the total B2C market. And in terms of active users, one trend which we'll cover on the following slide is the rapid growth of the group buying social e-commerce space. But what you need to understand about Chinese e-commerce is that in the e-com world in China, it is completely managed by marketplaces. So we would equate that to Amazon and the rest of the world. And the rapid growth of social commerce, again, we'll cover that in terms of the trends, and especially live streaming. Alan's going to give us an insight into how that is actually growing rapidly within the China e-com world. So understanding the scale is one thing, but how will Chinese consumers find your brand and products? So next slide, please, Christina. There we go. So they will find your brand through a range of platforms and tools, and an effective marketing strategy consists of a number of these tools. The key thing really is to focus towards the 5 biggest social and digital platforms, which are listed on the screen, being WeChat, Red, Weibo, Baidu, and Douyin. These should form the backbone of your marketing plan. And the key thing here is to find the right marketing partner to develop your marketing strategy, because local knowledge is what really counts here. And needless to say, if you get this piece wrong, then it could be a very expensive mistake in terms of developing your business. So the platforms are very similar to the ones that we are familiar with in the rest of the world, such as Google and Twitter and Instagram and so on. It's just they have different names in China. But the staggering thing again is just how many active users. If you look at some of the numbers on this particular slide, more than 1 billion on WeChat, 30 million active users on Red, 446 million on Weibo, and so on. So the opportunities are there to reach the consumers. You just need to make sure that you have a good partner who develops the right marketing strategy for you. So that's the market. That's how consumers can find you. But in terms of opportunities for international brands, I think we've already looked at some of the figures. The scale of the China e-commerce world being USD 4.9 trillion is a huge opportunity in itself. We'll cover some of the details that I'm just going to touch on now in the next slides, but 800 million plus registered e-com shoppers in China. And China is actually seeing a bounce back in August and September this year. It's the first market in the world to see a bounce back following the COVID outbreak. So you can see the dip there in January, February, obviously because COVID hit China much earlier than the rest of the world. But as you can see, during August, it's back to a year-on-year growth position, and that's continuing through into September. So this presents a great opportunity while the rest of the world is still struggling to deal with COVID and still in a decline in terms of an economy. China is actually back into the growth phase. And the next slide shows us again representing opportunities, but clearly the trends in China in terms of the 3 major consumer platforms. So we have Alibaba, which is Tmall, you have Pinduoduo, and JD.com. So the left-hand side is the number of annual million shoppers, and then the scale along the bottom is month by month. And you can see through to March 2020, the numbers are absolutely staggering. So JD.com is up to almost 400 million. Pinduoduo is approaching 650 million, and Alibaba is between 700 and 800 million. So again, just some very, very insightful trends in terms of shoppers in China. And also on the next slide, this shows that the offline players have also been forced to speed up their digitalization transformation. So online retail is moving quickly to support the offline business. And this is a case study with IKEA. So IKEA has been in China for more than 20 years. And it's waited really until March 2020 to open its online retail store, which is a flagship store on Tmall. And it's been most likely accelerated by the outbreak. But just some very interesting statistics there. So in only 5 days, they got 900,000 Tmall followers and impressive sales. So they've currently got 2,000 plus products available. And in the past 30 days, I think this was maybe a week or so ago, sales reached $4 million US, and that was just for the Shanghai region alone. So COVID is forcing people to take the opportunities of digitalization, but also to ensure that they take a large piece of the e-commerce market in China. So even the big brands are being forced to speed up their digitalization. The next slide gives some figures around the Double 11, which is the 11th of November, one of the big sales promotion days in China. And in 2019, total sales were 58 billion US. Now, when you compare that to Black Friday in the US, which was 7 billion, then the gap is just enormous. And what the graphic represents is the market share in terms of transactions on Double 11. So you can see Tmall is by far the biggest player, and then followed by JD and some of the other social and e-commerce platforms too. So it's important to consider which platform is right for you. And another interesting thing is around cross-border e-commerce. I know we're talking about domestic e-commerce today, but taking the jump into the domestic e-commerce world is a big commitment. And whilst the the market is growing, it could be that as a first step, cross-border e-commerce could be a natural entry for an international brand. And there we've just shared some figures around the growth around Tmall Global, JD Worldwide, and looking at some of the developments there within cross-border e-commerce. So we're not going to spend too much time on that, but that's just something to consider for maybe those guys who didn't join the presentation yesterday. So really important factor is who do you work with to support your domestic e-commerce store. So key considerations around partners. We'll come to this at the end of the slide, but this is where the network and having the experts in the different fields can actually really add value. So business services are really important. This is where the business services can help develop your China strategy and help you with things like registering your China entity. Other important things to do are register your brand, your trademark, and your IP. And the business services provider can also operate your China entity if you don't have a China team. So you can register your entity, but not actually have a team within China. The business service provider can actually operate your store and manage your business on the ground in China for you. And also, you may have heard the term TP. TP effectively is your e-commerce partner for the marketplaces. So they will support the brand owner, and you can completely outsource your store to a TP. They can manage your marketing budget, and a TP should definitely be seen as an extended part of your team. So view it as your team in China, a true partnership. And one of the major tasks is to act as a link between the brand owner and the category managers at the marketplaces, i.e. Alibaba or JD.com. It's really important to foster those good relationships with the platform providers to make sure that you're getting the right service to support your store and your marketing activities. So why do you need the TP? I think it's really simple. The local knowledge really counts. The online landscape in China is completely different. Even how a store is structured, how you interact with the Chinese consumers and the platform interface. Most marketplaces or platforms do require daily communication and often negotiation and some coordination with the teams at the marketplaces. So a TP is something that you should foster a good relationship with. And also on the marketing side, just like in cross-border e-commerce, the market research is very, very important. You need to make sure that you understand the market, you understand the consumers' behaviors, and that will lead you to creating an effective marketing plan. And the other thing, which is absolutely a key consideration, is the consumer engagement. So you need people in your team who can understand the consumer behavior and also be responsive. You know, the expectations in China regarding responses are very, very high. And as I mentioned earlier, getting this wrong could be a very expensive mistake. So the key thing here is choose the right partners for business services, TP, and also marketing services. So the next slide is a duplication of the one of the previous slides, but it's just to reiterate that marketing piece. And the key message here, which we'll probably say a number of times, it's all about finding the right partner who understands the market, who can develop the effective strategy and make sure that your marketing plan is executed effectively, but also on budget. Now, this is where my colleague Alan will come in as well to support. This is where the local knowledge really counts. But just I will lead on this particular slide and then hand over to Alan on the following slides. But the social e-commerce, especially during COVID, seen a huge boost, and it's one of the fastest growing social commerce platforms in China, being Little Red Book. During the outbreak, the social platforms have really accelerated, and we'll cover more facts and information on the following slides. But the increase, due to the increase in costs for paid traffic, and with the Corona boost, forecasts say that this method will only grow stronger and stronger, which we'll see in the trends on the following slides. So let's take a look at live streaming, and I'll hand over to my colleague Alan because he has much more local knowledge than I have on this topic.
Thank you, Kevin.
Cheers, Alan.
So no problem. And so in regards to the live streaming, it has been nowadays a very common ways to basically to promote and to showcase your products. A lot of people in China, users, whoever's purchasing the products online, they will actually go to the live streaming and to see the product itself, because nowadays due to the COVID, a lot of retail stores and forbidden to go there, and people cannot go out, they can only shop online. So live streaming is nowadays the most closest feeling, or you could say the down-to-earth feeling, closest to a retail store, physical store shopping. So a lot of products that nowadays, a lot of brands, they're using the live streaming to boost their sales, and even also to showcase the new developed product, and also promote and to engage any promotional events through the e-commerce stores. So if we look at the next page, it will be showing you the trend, how live streaming has been going on since 2012 until today. So in the past, a lot of live streamings, as we know, on mostly primarily on gaming, sports, and even some of the teen cultures. But through the evolution of purchasing the product online, people are using live streaming for a lot of a lot of industries, such as consumer goods, even fashion nowadays, also cosmetic and beauty. So there you'll be seeing live streaming where people, they're actually testing cosmetics, or even key opinion leaders, they're even using cosmetic brands to showcase to a lot of audiences how the product actually feels and what are the feedbacks. And it's very down to earth feelings, so that most people who's purchasing online, who's viewing the live streaming, can actually see the products and it's been used and how it's functional. So if we go to the next page, basically some of nowadays, not just saying only products that are in the consumer space are using live streaming, but also some of the other industries such as luxury, even travel services, real estate. Some of the uncommon things that you've been used on live streaming has now engaging live streaming compared to the fast moving consumer goods. So if you look at the automotive, there will be people selling cars online or showcasing their new developed cars online. And even real estate, they're showcasing you the latest estate households, houses that's been selling online, and also they've been putting in the market. That's likewise to also the travel services, whereas basically there will be a live streaming on the exact vacation places where people are just showcasing how it looks like and what's the feeling of the hotel or even the travel places. And the next slide is giving you a very, very good example of how live streaming nowadays by using your mobile phone to see the live streaming. So this is an example of using a Tmall app, which is showcasing the Nike. So basically, it's a well-known key opinion leader who's using live streaming for promoting the Nike products. And basically, you'll be seeing in the picture, it enhances the user experience because it's more down to earth. People will more trust to the key opinion leader because it gives more authentic feedback and also more realistic feedback on the product itself. It gives you the pros and cons of the product through the live streaming as well. Also, live streaming will give you a lot of benefits of, instead of you have to go type in specific product that you want to purchase, if you look at the live streaming, if you see some products that you like, you can instantly click the product into the live streaming picture and instant purchase, and also put into the shopping baskets immediately. Also, the third thing is that when you're engaging the live streaming, it's a lot about interactions. So people like me or any other online purchases, they will love to interact with the personnel who's ever selling online, whether it's the KOL or whether it's a salesperson who's doing the live streaming, or even other well-known celebrities, online celebrities. And this gives you a really good feelings and give you instant feedbacks on the product itself. And also they'll give you any promotional activities through live streaming. For example, like if a new product is launching through the live streaming, they'll give you promotional discounts, whoever the audiences who wanted to purchase in the first launch. And if we go to the next page, it's also showing you another example of how you engage the live streaming, how you do it. So basically, the live streaming is follow very strict international, like the online internet laws. Basically, there will be only authentic live streaming, and also it's also legit. So there's no bad activities that will be showing online streamings. There will only online streaming that's specifically to the product selling itself. And you can see the live streamers are giving complete, truthful, and accurate descriptions of the product and the services they sell. There will be no false advertising or any false content or any aggressive content, because before engaging live streaming, all the content media will be approved by the China media public authorities before you can engage the live streaming, whether you are a salesperson or whether you are online celebrities. And all the online streamers, they are allowed to use nicknames and they will also, before they log in, they will also be using their real name of authentications before performing the live streaming. And if we go to the next page, so I'll hand it over to Kevin. This is pretty much
Perfect.
it for the live
Thank
streaming.
you, Alan. Thank you.
No problem.
That's good insights into live streaming there. Thanks. So just to summarize the key considerations, I think those of you who've already looked at China or maybe experienced hands in China will know a lot of this, but particularly for the newbies, this is a list of things which you should consider whilst you're exploring or researching or even considering entering the China e-comm market. So registering your China entity, also registering your trademark and IP. Really important part is to do the market research. So many companies have entered China and failed because they didn't understand the Chinese market. It is very different to the rest of the world, so it's really important to do that research piece. And also, which TP partner will you work with? Which marketplace will you open your store on? And also, to support all of that, your marketing plan and budget. So this is where the local knowledge really counts and is essential to creating an effective plan. And also local customer service. It goes without saying, in a domestic market, you need the domestic customer service, and choosing the right partners to give you that complete visibility and trust and transparency on what's happening on the ground. So from your TP, your marketing partner, your business services, and also your warehouse and logistics. And also importantly, this is where another local knowledge really counts, is making sure that you're fully compliant with the Chinese regulations. You don't want to get on the wrong side of the Chinese authorities. So therefore, having that local knowledge will just make sure that you're on the right path to succeeding. So the next step is to take a look at the logistics flow in terms of how that looks. Alan will support me within this one. So we're going to look at two things, which is the order flow itself and also the final mile options. So I can take the order flow. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much like e-commerce in every other part of the world. The Chinese consumer will find your store in one of the marketplaces. They place an order, and your product is stored somewhere in a warehouse. So then when the order is received, it's picked, packed, and shipped, and then dropped into the domestic delivery network to deliver out to consumers. Now, if we look at that in a little more detail, just in a step-by-step process. So again, it all begins with the order being placed by the Chinese consumer on the marketplace. Those details are sent to the fulfillment company, i.e. the warehouse. That order is fulfilled and packed and then shipped to the consumer via the local delivery network. And the shipping data is also sent to the consumer so they know it's on their way. And once the goods are received, the receipt data is sent back to the marketplace, so that completes the loop. The other thing to consider is if any of the Chinese consumers have any issues with any of the products and want to do any returns, then you need to make sure that you have a returns facility in place. And the integration required to make all of this a joined-up process and automated is between the marketplace and obviously the brand owner's management information systems. It needs to be connected to the warehouse fulfillment system and also the courier provider which you'll be using. So it's pretty much similar to e-commerce in most other parts of the world, but we thought it was useful just to explain that to everybody. And Alan is going to take the next slide, which explains the final mile options.
Thank you, Kevin. So in terms of the final, the last mile options, there are several logistics or courier companies in China who are handling a lot of day-to-day products for whether it's offline or online stores. And for example, if you look at the page where it's showing common lead times, most likely Shanghai to Shanghai, which is going to be the same day or the next day delivery. So it's within inner city delivery. And for example, if we depart from Shanghai to other areas, there will be could be 1 to 2 days, or it could be more because China is so big. If you want to deliver something to other cities, it depends on the lead times. And different couriers also handling different common products. So different types of product commodities. So we have products that's within fast moving consumer goods. We have food and beverages, electronics, stationery, fashion, lifestyle, and so on. So those are the common types of products that have been handled by the couriers. And we do have certain products that are not really that common. So we call it the perishable products. So like fresh fruit, even like you can handle like cold chain products. Those are not really into the common list of handling. So those will require additional request if you have this kind of product that needs to be handled. And just to give you guys a quick common shipping cost calculation. So for example, 1 kg parcel for the inner city for Shanghai to Shanghai, it's about $2, $2.2 for 1 kg parcels. And also couriers would also take other measurements. We call it the chargeable weight. So it's also measured from if the individual packages are oversized or if the parcels are irregular sized box, if you needed to ship. So basically they will take by the chargeable weight as the measurement. So for example, the chargeable weight is listed in the calculations. So I'm not going into details on that. Pretty much this is how the common couriers companies that will use to measure for the cost calculations for your products that's going to be shipped. And just to add in the additional point, which Kevin has mentioned in previously on the order flow, for the domestic e-commerce, we just have to understood that the warehouse in the domestic e-commerce are residing in the domestic facilities, and we have to understood that all the products that it's within in the domestic facilities are all taxed and duty paid. So there's no free tax. Everything that is within the domestic facilities to handling the domestic e-commerce portion, all the products are being taxed and all the duties are being paid. So when a consumer purchases the products online, they can just order it without paying any duty because it's already amortized. And when they shipping out, it will be shipped out from the domestic facility to the consumer address. So Kevin, I will leave it back to you on the step-by-step guide.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you.
No problem.
So we've covered the key facts about the market, the opportunities. We've highlighted some of the key considerations and how the logistics flow. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, what we've done here is we've provided a step-by-step guide to help you succeed. So first things first, you need to register your China entity, your brand, and your trademark in China. And again, finding a reputable service provider to help you do this. I know this is something which Christina has helped many companies do. And then the next step is really important. This is where you need to understand the China market and do the research piece. I can't stress enough how important this is. This is where a lot of brands fail. And if you don't do this, it could be a very expensive venture or foray into China, which could end in disaster. And once you've done the market research, obviously creating a marketing budget in line with your sales expectations is important. Then the next step, in step 3, you have some decisions to make around which e-commerce platform you will be selling your products through, and also which products you want to offer. And then you need to build your store, including all the integration points which we mentioned on the logistics side. So this is where you need to choose your e-commerce and marketing and also warehouse service providers. As part of the process of building your store, you will have to register your products with the platform providers, and this is where your TP partner can help you. So finding reputable China e-commerce and marketing partner is crucial. They can also offer you the local customer support as well if you don't have your team on the ground. And the important thing is to do your homework and ask for references from their existing customers. And you would definitely want to visit their warehouse to make sure that everything is as you would expect it to be and professional. As part of the selling process in China, you need to make sure that all of the product information is in Chinese. So there may be a translation service there, which is required. And then step 5 is to develop that effective marketing plan across the marketing channels which are right for your business and to reach the consumers that you want to sell your products to. Now that process can be done in parallel with building your store and product registration, and the development of your marketing plan should be seen as an ongoing, living, breathing piece to remain agile and adapt to the market changes in the marketplace. Step 6 would be to train your e-commerce partner if indeed you wanted to outsource the customer service part to your TP partner. So again, finding the right partner is crucial. And the final step is, before you go live, you would definitely want to test the end-to-end service from the ordering of products from the store right through to goods being shipped to the consumer and receipt, just to make sure that when you do go live with consumers, then everything is working, including the final mile deliveries. So hopefully that's a useful step-by-step guide for you towards setting up your e-commerce store for domestic e-commerce in China. Now, we'd be doing ourselves an injustice if we didn't promote the Elanders services, and we do actually offer an end-to-end service, and that's delivered through a strategic partnership. And what we've done here is we've developed a powerful partnership with Elanders, Woodburn Global, and a marketing company called Aventura, who have more than 9 years experience on the ground in China with e-commerce. So across the partnership, you get everything from project management, you get global and local logistics, regional and China warehouses if you want to manage some of your goods outside of China before shipping into China. You would have all of the fulfillment, logistics, and returns from Elanders. Woodburn Global have a wealth of experience with their business services for registering trademarks and providing business support services. And with our marketing partner and e-comm partner, they can do the whole market research piece. They could be your China TP and also manage the whole store build, design, maintenance, as well as marketing and customer service if you would like to outsource any of those services. So this is very much a comprehensive end-to-end solution we're promoting, but you can mix and match and plug into the services which are right for your business. And just a visual representation on the next slide of 5 of the e-commerce cases where we're actively working on. So these are foreign brands that it's a mixture of companies that actually manage their own entity and others that outsource. But it's everything, mainly clothing here, baby products, some beauty products too. But we thought it was just, in terms of a credentials piece, it was worth presenting some of the web stores that we're actually managing on behalf of our customers. And just to finish, what we've created with our partnership is a complete e-commerce solution for China. And we've designed the partnership to make it simple. It is a complete end-to-end solution if that's what you would like. We have a mutual interest, a shared interest with our customers. We want to protect your brand, but also help you build your business through delivering sales. If you're successful, we are successful. So we have a very much partnership approach to doing business here. You get the benefit of working with logistics and China e-comm experts. They help you control your own brand experience. We help manage the marketplace and social shopping platforms. And you get global project management and local China expertise. We work on a very simple basis of transparency and trust, but the main aim in offering and promoting the end-to-end service is to make it simple for international brand owners to do business in China. So that summarizes or concludes the presentation. We have contact details for myself and Alan, should you wish to do any follow-up afterwards. But without further delay, I'll hand over back to Christina.
Kevin, Alan, thank you so much. So I've been reading through some of the questions that have been popping in, and I think we need to give a clarification, if that's all right with you guys.
Okay.
So the clarification that I want to give is the following. Yesterday, we were talking about cross-border e-commerce. And with that, you have two options available to you. One option is the direct shipping, which is generally air freight. Is that fair to say, Kevin,
Correct.
Alan?
Correct.
Okay, so the direct shipping is air freight, okay? If you choose the option of the bonded zone, generally you are shipping in bulk, and it has to go directly into a bonded zone. So Micah, you were following up with a couple of questions about using rail to go into Hefei and Chongqing. If it doesn't go directly into a bonded zone, it cannot be considered as part of cross-border e-commerce. Is that fair to say, Kevin and Alan?
Yeah, the products must be transported into a bonded warehouse to be able to deliver cross-border e-commerce. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. In terms of domestic e-commerce, we are talking about there is no overseas party. Domestic e-commerce means that your goods are already in China, right? And you are putting that, so most likely you've produced goods, they are produced in China, and you are looking now to sell those goods on the e-commerce market. It is a domestic transaction that is occurring. Kevin, Alan, fair to say?
That's correct. The transactions with
correct.
the consumers are domestic transactions. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm hoping that clarifies everything, because there seems to be a bit of confusion between these three models, and I just wanted to make it very clear. If that wasn't clear for somebody, oh, I've lost my connection. Can you hear me still?
We can.
Okay. So what I wanted to say with that is, if you're not clear on those three functions and exactly how it works, ask. Please use this opportunity to ask. Micah, I hope that answered your question, because you were asking a lot of follow-ups from the earlier question that we did today. Emma has a question, several questions actually, and I'm going to run through all the questions, and then I'll leave it to Alan and Kevin to answer. So Emma's asking, which products work best? Is provenance important? Would apparel made in the Indian subcontinent, but it's a British brand, have appeal? Does skincare still need to be tested on animals? Would pet food and products be suitable? What about vodka? What would be a minimum monthly budget to consider? That's a lot right there, Emma. So I'll leave it to Alan. And I think let me just add maybe my perspective. I think, Emma, in terms of all of those questions, they're all valid questions, but they're part of the market research stage. That's part of your market research analysis. Alan, Kevin?
So provenance, I would say, is important. If it's, you may have to remind me of the first point, Christina, but I remember the provenance part.
Which products work best? Is provenance important? If goods are produced somewhere else, but it's considered a British brand, is that appeal? Does that appeal?
Okay.
Does skincare, cosmetics need to be tested on animals? Let's start with that first. Okay.
So, Alan, maybe you know more about the skincare. My latest knowledge was that as far as I understood, the China FDA definitely still insisted on skincare and beauty products being tested on animals before they're sold in China. But Alan, maybe you could give.
Yes. So in terms of the skincare products, it needs to be tested with the China FDAs. So it's called FDA, stands for Food and Drug Associations. So it has to be tested on animals before it can be launched, whether online sales or offline general trade. So for example, those big brands that you see selling online like L'Oreal's, Clarins, those are already tested with the animals testings and would also approved by the China FDA before launching online and also selling through a retail store.
Okay, so coming back to the, thanks Alan, coming back to the products that I guess are popular at the moment. Again, Alan, you can join in on this one, but certainly food and beverages, nutrition and healthcare, and also fashion and lifestyle. Baby products are also very, very popular. Anything you want to add to that, Alan?
Yeah, so baby products, we just have to ensure that baby products can categorize in many different ways. There are baby products which is lifestyle usable, like clothings or standard equipments or to facilitate babies, but there are certain baby products that you need to take extra care, whereas under the license registrations, there are certain baby products that involves consumable. So for example, if you are providing products that involves in the baby industry, such as the Kevin, correct me. I don't know what's the phrase for if the babies are eating. There's a baby bowl
baby
for the formula. So something like this that involves like plastic or consumables for babies, then you need to have specific licenses or certifications to prove that this is not harmed to the people who are using it, especially babies.
Yeah, the baby part is very, very sensitive in China and very tightly regulated. Absolutely.
And also, just on the side note, for the fashion industry wise, just have to ensure that the materials for the fashion products like clothing, jeans, jackets, just to ensure that those products are not in the blacklist, which is involving the endangered species materials.
Yeah, so animal fur, animal skin.
Yeah, animal fur, animal skin, real python skin. Those can also operate online, but you need to have special certifications to prove that those are legal harvest or legal captured. Yep.
Yeah, but just to emphasize, most fashion and lifestyle products are on the positive list. And in terms of provenance, that's a good question. I think, yes, provenance does make a difference. Something made in the UK, made in Italy, it definitely does make a difference to the Chinese consumer. And the Chinese consumers are very, very savvy, so they will do the research as well to ensure the kind of origins or the authenticity of the product as well. And for sure, British products definitely strike a chord in China. You know, there's a rich history between the UK and China, and you know, if you have anything made in London or London on the brand name, it definitely generates an interest. So I think good questions, and yes, they do make a difference. Hopefully that's answered the questions.
There were further questions from Emma, which were, would pet food and products be suitable? What about vodka? What would be a minimum monthly budget?
Okay, so yes, spirits aren't a problem. Vodka, being a spirit, is fine. Pet foods, there are a lot of international pet food brands selling in China today. So yes, that is possible. There are probably just some regulations that you need to be aware of, and because anything consumed in China is tightly regulated. So yes, there are just some regulations that need to be followed. In terms of a budget, so this came up yesterday. I guess we're talking about marketing budget, Christina, yes?
She doesn't specify, but
okay.
I think the question did pop up yesterday, so I think we can give the same answer as yesterday.
Yeah, so I think we have to be realistic. In if you're new to China in year one, you will spend way more on marketing than you will probably generate in sales. And then in year two, you would see hopefully traction in sales, providing your marketing plan is right. And that's where you could expect a reduction in your marketing budget as your sales grow. And then year on year, you should see that trend follow, a reduction in marketing spend and an increase in sales revenue. I'm not sure it's sensible to give a monetary figure.
I don't think it's sensible to give a monetary figure, because it really also comes down to the size of the company that's looking to make that investment into China. Do they have the capital and resources to make a huge investment? If not, you've got to look at what financial capabilities you actually have, whether you're going to look for further financing, whether that's going to be from Chinese investors or overseas investors. Then, you know, you've really got to talk to people. And I mean this, what I mean by this is partners, to understand a slow growth strategy. Because if you don't have the financing and the capital, you will have to go more slowly than somebody who has the big bucks in the bank. So if you talk to a marketing agency or one of these e-commerce TPs to understand what their recommendations would be for a slow growth based on the financial resources you have, you'll get a much clearer picture. And then obviously you've got to talk to the logistics providers to understand how the whole supply chain will be fulfilled and what is the pricing on that. Then you have to look at it from a compliance perspective. Do you have your trademark registration in place? Do you have a budget for that? There's all of these parties you need to speak to, and ultimately you've got to know what is your capability for your spending. If you don't know what that is, it's going to make it very difficult to have these proper conversations. Kevin, Alan, do you want to add anything else on that?
No, I think you've covered most of the relevant things there, Christina.
Everything's good. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a follow-up question from Ji Hong, who's saying, we would like to promote our machinery equipment, so not consumer products. Which online marketplace shall we engage with? So I just want to highlight, Ji Hong, we're not marketing agencies. So we're probably not the best people to answer this question. We can give you our points of view, but we're probably not the best people to answer that. But from my point of view, this is all about content creation and promoting, you know, making people understand. This is the same for anybody, right? Because initially you have to make your brand become aware. So you have to do content creation, and you've got to make posts on a variety of platforms. Not marketplaces, platforms. So social platforms like WeChat, like Weibo, to highlight what your brand is. Now, being that you are in a specialty industry, that might not be the right places for you, but it will be social media sites where you are promoting your content.
There is
Kevin,
a B2B,
Alan?
Yeah, there is a B2B e-com platform, and our marketing partners were the first international company to be registered on that platform. So if there is a specific interest in that, I can provide the details after the webinar.
All right, fantastic. Then there's a follow-up email from John, who's asking, what fees, commissions do e-commerce platforms charge per sale?
That's a good question. Again, that would be a question for our marketing partners, our TP partners. So I can do a follow-up with that after the webinar.
So John, just so you're aware, almost every e-commerce platform has a different fee structure.
Yeah.
Where to open up the shop, you'll pay a deposit amount to just open it up. And then you will have to pay a commission, and depending on the various platforms, there will be a different pricing. It can be anything from 2 to 8% per sale. And that varies on the type of platform you're going on. From the latest stats that I've read, the big names like Tmall and JD, which is obviously the ones that have the most traction, are the most expensive.
And just, and
which
I
is
think
also
just to
why,
add
and the deposit amount is huge. We're looking at really more than just a couple thousand USD to get on. Alan, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, sorry, it's okay. I was just gonna add something. Just added a few points regarding the online store fees. So besides what Christina and Kevin has mentioned, there are additional fees that are not included, which will be extra costs that you will need to consider in your marketing budget, such as promotional events, advertising for any of your product launch, existing product or new product launch, and or participating in the promotional events. Some of the big key events such as Double 11, Black Fridays, or China Black Fridays, or Christmas, or Chinese New Year, something like this, are not included in the original. Will not be included in the traditional marketing budget. Those will be excluded fees that you need to consider in your marketing budget. And every marketing agency will charge differently. So I think per what Christina has mentioned, you will have to do a lot of engagement with the marketing agency and to find out more how the fee structure is.
Right. And I just want to add here, don't make the assumption that Tmall and JD are the right ones for you. They're the ones that are most spoken about because the stats are phenomenal, but they are also the most expensive. So, you know, there are a lot of marketplaces out there, and you just need to be aware of what's available, what are actually also product specific, because there are like, I think 3 or 4 specific marketplaces just for baby products. All right. So, you know, do that research. Like Kevin has been mentioning so many times in the presentation, and I highlighted it too in mine. Market research. You've got to do the market research before you jump in. There's a question from Elena, which is asking, which I think is a great question. What risks are involved with TPs for quality concerns and other things?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the risks you can encounter could be poor customer service, lack of transparency. I've heard some horrendous stories around, and some quite large brand names as well, where they just lost complete visibility of what products were being sold, how much revenue was being generated. So, you know, the biggest risk is around transparency and obviously a negative consumer experience, because if they're not delivering the customer service effectively, then obviously that could be an absolute disaster, given the power of social media in China as well, because if you deliver bad service, then news will travel very, very quickly.
I just want to add my point here regarding feedback I've gotten from clients that have worked with TPs. And usually I always get the negative feedback. So, but then I have an opinion on that. So you can work with a TP, you could work with any service provider and be very unhappy. It could be because they don't provide you enough transparency. It could be because they haven't fulfilled their service promise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also what I'm noticing more and more, and this is why Woodburn has this philosophy, internal company philosophy now, is that clients are also not proactive. And I hate to put the blame on you guys, but a lot of you are not proactive. And by proactivity, it is, if you are looking for transparency, you need to be proactive with your service providers. And you can't wait. So, you know, these TPs are going to send you probably on a monthly basis, if not more often, stats, statistics, analysis on what is happening on your shops, right? How much sales, how much promotional activity, they're going to give you data. If you don't look at that data immediately, the TP is going to make an assumption you're fine. If you don't have a phone call with the TP to discuss it, what is your expectation of them, right? You need to have that discussion. You need to have that proactivity. You've got to understand what is happening on a weekly or monthly basis in terms of your sales, in terms of the marketing activity that is attached to the sales, etc. And if you don't do that analysis straight away, how do you know how do you know how to make decisions? You can't blame it on the TP. The TP is giving you the data. You need to sit with them to actually analyze it. And that's the same you know, when you're talking about your supply chain and how to make it more effective, you'd have to sit down with Alan and Kevin to discuss that, right? It can't always fall on the shoulders of the service provider to always be so proactive. It also has to come from your end. And that's where I see a huge mistake made by a lot of people, is that they don't do their market research. They're not proactive. They sit back in their chair and they wait. And after a year, pops the question, why aren't we doing so well? Right? You've got to be proactive. You've got to have certain resources in-house to manage that and make sure you're managing it more frequently than what I'm seeing with a lot of clients. Kevin, Alan, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's, you know, as I mentioned earlier, if you do work with a TP, it should be, you know, that they are your extended arm, but you're in control. You want to manage the experience for your consumers in your store. They are the service provider. They still need to be managed. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then the next question is from Jihong. Jihong, I think we might have answered this question already, where you were saying, does direct shipping include rail freight or sea freight? If it's direct shipping business model, it is air freight. It is going from overseas to the consumer through air freight.
Yes,
the other one is the bonded zone, which can be air or sea freight. It always has to go into the bonded zone. And if you're doing domestic e-commerce, your products are in a warehouse somewhere, and from that warehouse, they're going to be dispatched out. I hope that clarifies. John is asking, cruelty-free beauty does not exist in China. It's a question. I didn't raise my voice. Cruelty-free beauty does not exist in China. Does it exist in China? Are you aware if it does exist?
Not to my knowledge. My knowledge is that all skincare products must be tested on animals before they're released into the China market.
All right. The next question is from Rod, who's asking, how do the financial transactions work on the various platforms? So Rod, we touched on this in yesterday's webinar regarding the various payment platforms that are available. So there's Alipay and WeChat Pay and a few others. Alan was also highlighting that you can now, in some cases, even use overseas credit cards to make payments. I don't know if you want to go into more detail on that, Rod, or Kevin, Alan, if you can quickly go through that, how those financial transactions work.
I think it's just sensible to point out that on domestic e-commerce, obviously the transactions are put into a domestic Chinese bank account, whereas for cross-border e-commerce, the money is actually then transferred outside, so into your local bank account in your local country.
Right. So Rod is just messaging saying that he missed yesterday's session. So Rod, from a cross-border e-commerce perspective, consumer pays, the consumer pays through a payment platform method. It goes from the e-commerce platform to their beneficial account overseas, which then goes into the merchant's account. If you've got more questions on that, Rod, just message it through. Alan is asking, hold on. Alan is asking, what are the criteria you use to determine if a business is capable of selling and selling well through cross-border trade to China from Europe?
So this is where we look at the market research piece, and the key things that we have in terms of criteria for that. They were shared yesterday on the webinar, but I'll just quickly run through those again. So we'll do things like competitor mapping, sales channel analysis, who's your target customer, what are the consumer preferences and behaviors, the market size and the growth trends, and obviously any regulations which are a barrier to entry. Now, this is very much a collaboration piece as part of the marketing research scoping exercise. So, and our marketing partner would run this, but they would need to understand what your products are, who you believe your customers are, and then we do the analysis in terms of the market research to see what size the market is in China, what the growth trends are there any barriers to entry. So it's really collaboration with the brand owner to understand their business, and then we can give a quick feedback. But really, the key part is doing that market research to understand how the landscape is in China related to your products.
Alan says, thank you. You're welcome. Elena has a question, which is a really good question to ask for those of you that are looking to do domestic business. So she's asking, can you operate your e-commerce business through your existing company? Elena has a consultancy creative industries company, or should I set up a totally new legal entity separate from the other one? Elena, nowadays, actually, I have seen a lot of consultancy companies have the ability to add trade into their business scope. So whether that's domestic trade, import, export, e-commerce, or retail. So you can do that with your existing entity. The big question I would raise, which is something that you would have to decide on, is do you want to separate those businesses for liability reasons in case something happens with one of the businesses? But ultimately, in theory, yes, you should be able to add on to the business scope of your existing entity to add trade. I hope I answered your question on that. The last question right now is from Jack, who's asking, and he's saying, is it appropriate to ask this question now? What are your insights on the current and future direction of the geopolitical situation affecting the Chinese market vis-a-vis trading restrictions and opportunities?
Yeah, it's a big question, of course. I guess in some cases it depends where in the world you're sitting in terms of the seller. But certainly, you know, for China is definitely continuing with their mantra of opening up, wanting to do more global trade. You know, they're not positive about the trade wars and the frictions they're having with the US. And there's been some really tremendous activity in terms of business between the UK and China, and that's just growing. And you know, with the upcoming issue of Brexit as well, that's definitely on the agenda as a country to grow trade between the two countries. So I think in general, I think the only major risk really in terms of the political landscape, you could say, could be with the US. But China is definitely open for business. And as we've seen from the numbers, in terms of the key facts related to the market, there are tremendous opportunities. The Chinese consumers have a demand for international brands. China is open. More companies want to do trade with China also. You know, the US, President Trump is a different matter, but I would say it has a good future.
I just want to add my 2 cents here, because I've had a lot of clients from the UK, from Australia, and from the US ask me, will my business get halted in China with these political situations or discussions or negotiations that are occurring? So it's not just with the US, it's with the UK, it's also with Australia, and probably a few other nations too. I think just as Kevin said, China is open for business. They will never reject your business. They want your business to come to China. Now, the big question is whether your own government will want you to go to China and whether they will impose anything on you. To give you an example, I have a US client right now where we have had to halt their incorporation in China because in order to get any COVID funding from their local, not district, their local, they live in Florida, state, from their state government, if they have a Chinese entity, they will not get funding. Hence, their business incorporation has been halted. They don't want to have any sign or link to China at the moment, and they'll know more by the end of September and early October whether they will get the funding, and then they will proceed with the incorporation. But this is the unfairness that's occurring right now. From a Chinese perspective, they'll accept you. They'll allow you to come in. They want you to come in. Is it easy to come in? Not always. Like we've been reiterating, you've got to do your research and you've got to protect your business in the smartest ways that's possible in terms of brand protection, in terms of understanding the ins and outs of supply chain, trade flow, and just meeting up with the right partners to help you cater to the business. So, you know, it really depends on your own jurisdiction whether they're happy for you to go into China. One thing that Kevin and I were playing out, because, you know, it's something that's been popping up in these presentations this week, is, you know, we're getting asked, are people still pushing forward with their strategies for China? I'll give you my experience. You know, this year I started out end of January thinking, my God, this is going to be a horrible year, because everybody in January from overseas was telling me, no, Christina, if we can't travel to China, we won't progress. Then came middle of March and everyone said, oh my God, we're forgetting about China. We have to fix and save our parent company with this whole pandemic. I have had the busiest summer break, because all of a sudden people started popping up saying, we're ready to go. We want to go. We're ready now. We know that our head office is safe. We know that all of our other existing subsidiaries are fine. We're ready to push forward with our strategy. And these were the people that utilized the period from January to May to build their strategy and make it concrete. And they really did all the ins and outs, and, well, they basically crossed the T's and dotted the I's. So from my perspective, are people still pushing forward? Absolutely. Their question right now is, how do I begin? How do I start? What do I need to know? I need to build my strategy. For me, in many of those cases, I think it's almost too late. They should have done that all the way in between January and May. But it's all right. They're pushing forward. Kevin, what's your experience in regards to that?
Yeah, it's a similar picture for us, Christina. You know, we obviously saw COVID impact the world at different times during this year, and some people were considering China, maybe undecided, and then obviously when the UK and Europe went into lockdown, then that's when people really started thinking, okay, now is the time to review our strategy, maybe pick up on some things that we had on the back burner. And we've seen, you know, more companies starting their e-commerce models in sectors like food and beverages, jewelry, lighting and furniture, even fashion and lifestyle. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of activity. And it's clear that China's a market international brands are very interested in. And more companies want to develop that as part of their global sales.
Right. So, I mean, I think in the end, I think to conclude, especially the 2 days with the Elanders group, I think it's fair enough to say that, you know, you can move forward. You can start transacting in the Chinese market as long as you've done your homework. And, you know, Kevin, Alan, and I, we've all given you your homework list in terms of what you need to do and how to progress forward. But you definitely have the ability to do that. Like Kevin said, China's open for business. And you just have to be prepared for that. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Kevin and Alan. They spent 2 days with us. Again, truly, apologies for the technical difficulties earlier on today. I hate that. I get so nervous when things like that happen. So apologies for that. Kevin, Alan, thank you so much. We've really enjoyed ourselves. I would just like to ask Kevin and Alan if they could you put your contact details into the chat section of the control panel, so that people have a way of reaching out to you immediately, because yesterday that's what happened. So you've got Kevin's email there. Alan, if you can add your details, I'm going to add mine right now. If you guys want, you can also just click on the link later on and go directly into my diary and set up a meeting as well. I'm going to stay on after I stop the record button so you guys can save all of these details because I think I might have jumped off a bit too quick yesterday. If you want to add me on WeChat, you can. I'm going to give you my ID. Alan, Kevin, if you want to add your WeChats as well, that always makes it easier. Just as a reference point, everyone is going to get a phone call from my colleague Joe next week. We ourselves are trying to be proactive with all the registrants and attendees in regards to this webinar series to see whether they've enjoyed it, whether there's any positive, negative feedback, comments. We'll take that away. And also any ideas for future topics. I know that on this one, we didn't add a marketing partner, which I now know we should have added because a lot of questions would have been directed to them. And we'll definitely do that for the next series to add a marketing arm into this topic. But again, I want to thank everyone for joining in. And just remember tomorrow, if you guys are a little bit further ahead with your strategies in China and you want to start hiring people to do certain in-house activities. So, one of the things I was saying was you've got to be proactive, right? You've got to talk to your partners. And you might then say to me, well, Christina, I would love to have somebody who controls all of this, who's on the ground in China, and I want to hire someone. Join tomorrow's session, okay? Manfred's going to be coming on talking about how to find the right people who know e-commerce, who also have their own network, who can also maintain the relationships, do the follow-ups in regards to e-commerce, and how to find them, how to interview them, what are the salary ranges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't registered for that, it's woodburnglobal.com/events. And hopefully I'll see you all again tomorrow. Kevin, Alan, again, thank you so much. I hope we can do more webinars in the near future.
Thank you, Christina.
As well.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you to everyone. Take care and have a good evening and a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.